Let me welcome you, my dear students. This is our 7th learning session of short fictional narrative with BS English 3rd semester. Dear students, if you remember what we did last time, we tried to learn the 2 stories of the necklace and the 3 questions. We have discussed the introduction to Guy de Maupassant and the title significance of the necklace and its plot analysis, characters and theme. We have discussed the introduction to Leo Tolstoy and the title significance of the 3 questions and its plot analysis, characterization and themes. It was about our previous lecture. Now we are going to discuss the outline of our today's lecture. That today we will discuss the introduction to Franz Kafka. We are going to discuss the title significance of A Hunger Artist. We are going to discuss the plot analysis of A Hunger Artist and its setting, characters, literary elements and themes. So my dear students, now we are going to discuss the biography or the introduction of Franz Kafka. My dear students, let me tell you that the Franz Kafka was born on July 3rd, 1883. He belongs to a Jewish middle-class family. He was the doctor of law. We can simply say that he was born July 1883 in Prague. He belonged to Jewish middle-class family. He was the doctor of law. He died in June 3rd, 1924 from tuberculosis at the age of 40 in Köln. He is one of the most influential fiction writers of the early 20th century and his work published posthumously. He is one of the most influential German language novelists. So critics have interpreted Kafka's work such as Modernism, magic realism and so on. The apparent hopelessness and absurdity that seems to permeates his work are considered emblematic of existentialism. Existentialism and style of his writing was so influential that the term Kafkaesque was created to describe work, as the term Kafkaesque has become part of the English vernacular. So this was about Franz Kafka. Now we are going to discuss that he was influenced by socialism Yiddish, means he was influenced by socialism Jewish, and he was influenced by the literature Talmud, means the Jewish mystical teaching. He was influenced by the existentialism learning, and he was influenced by the transcendental metaphysical contemplations. Now we are going to discuss that modernism was a new style of writing that broke from traditional writing. So he was one who can one can see the Hunger Artist is written in a very different and controversial way, while it also deals with the strange and crazy subject. The third person, omniscient, has access to the artist's inner thought and feeling. The artist's internal conflict is not being happy with his fasting because he is not fully trusted by the public. We learn much more of the behind the scene of the Hunger Artist's daily life. We see the story from the perspective and not the audience. Means we can see this story from his perspective, not the audience perspective. So he wrote about the things on his own opinion. Now we are going to discuss the characteristics of his work, that he used the ambiguous words or terms. He used hopelessness or absurdity, magical realism, metaphysical quest for God, mean Talmud or Zohar. Then we can find in the surrealist humor, and people invented their own struggles. So this was the characteristics of his work. Now we are going to discuss his works. He wrote novels and short stories. If we talk about the novel, he wrote the Trial novel in 1925. He wrote The Castle in 1926. He wrote America in 1927. So these was about the novels. Now we are going to discuss the short stories. So he wrote the Stucker, a fragment short story in 1913, while he wrote Meditations in 1930. He wrote The Metamorphosis in 1915, while The Judgment, a story, this short story was written in 1916. If we talk about In the Penal Colony, he wrote this short story in 1919. He wrote A Country Doctor in 1919, while The Hunger Artist short story in 1924. So let me tell you that we are going to discuss his short story, A Hunger Artist. So let's discuss A Hunger Artist by Franz Kafka. So my dear students, A Hunger Artist, it is also translated as a fasting artist or starvation artist. It is a short story by Franz Kafka published in Die Neue Renskow in 1922. The protagonist is an archetypical creation of Kafka, an individual marginalized and victimized by society at large. The title refers to the title character, an unnamed hunger artist or starvation artist, depending on your translation, who entertains crowd of people by sitting alone in a cage without eating for long period of time. So it was about the title significance of A Hunger Artist. Now we are going to discuss the plot analysis. So let's discuss the exposition. My dear students, the exposition of the story A Hunger Artist is when people from all over the world want to watch the hunger artist. So if we talk about the rising action, so the rising action of the story or the short story A Hunger Artist is when the hunger artist becomes desperate fast for longer. People begin losing interest. Means they were facing that he is in the same position while sitting hunger. So it is the rising action. Now we are going to discuss the climax. So the climax of the story A Hunger Artist is when the loss of interest in the hunger artist forces him to join the circus, where he will be allowed to fast for as long he could like. So if you talk about the falling action, so the falling action of the hunger artist is when the hunger artist is ridiculed and ignored by the people until he is soon forgotten about completely. If we talk about the resolution, so the resolution of the story A Hunger Artist is when the hunger artist is killed by his art. Means he was hungered for a long time, and after sitting alone or isolation while without eating something, so he was killed. So this was about the plot analysis of A Hunger Artist. So my dear students, now we are going to discuss the literary element. Means the first one is the point of view. So my dear students, A Hunger Artist is written from a third person limited perspective, meaning that the narrator is an abstract voice, not a character in the story. If we talk about the symbol, the panther. The panther at the end of the story, with its power and liveliness, serves as the opposite of the hunger artist, who was powerless and ultimately lifeless. The hunger artist who spent his life trying to achieve spiritual satisfaction is replaced in the cage by the panther, which exhibits the we can say that the uninhibited, means he was uninhibited vitality of the physical world. The hunger artist lives in a state of constant want for both food and recognition. The panther, on the other hand, wants for nothing. Though the panther is caged, it is comfortable in its own skin, that it projects an aura of freedom. The narrator claims that the panther's freedom looks something in its jaw, which suggests that hunting and consumptions are what allow it to be so, we can say that, the unconflicted. Ultimately, the panther embodied the power and grace that come from engaging with the material world, which explains why the people crowd around its cage. Its vitality has attracted by recognition that the hunger artist failed to win. Now we are going to discuss the clock. So the clock in the cage represents the artist's own biological clock and draws attention to his body limitation. Convinced that perfection is in his art is a noble and lasting human achievement. A hunger artist labors under the the misperception that his power of starvation will exist for all eternity. The clock presence, however, exposes the hunger artist's delusions by constantly reminding him of the reality of the present. Like all other animate beings, the hunger artist is subject to physical and earthly demands, including the passage of time. Just as he cannot exist without food, he cannot exist without outside the time. The clock is mocking of the hunger artist's effort to become immortal. If we talk about the cage, means it is an other symbol. So the cage in which the hunger artist perform represents his alienation from society. In this sense, it suggests the division between spectacle and the barrier that prevents underlying. It enables to understand the artist's perfection for which the hunger artist strive inside his cage. The spectators see a pathetic madman who may be cheating on his fast. As the hunger artist suggests, his spectators' position outside the cage prevent them from truly appreciating the hunger artist's face. The cage also represents security, protecting the hunger artist from those who do not understand him. On his side, the cage, the hunger artist may lament his separation from others, but he made the choice to isolate himself. The cage has symbolic meaning not only for the hunger artist's relationship to the other, but also for the hunger artist himself. The cage represents the hunger artist's body in which he feels he is imprisoned. After all, his body and its physical need are the ultimate constraint on the ambition to fast means indefinitely. His body is a prison to him, and his effort to break out the prison is actually a death wish. By fasting, the hunger artist attempts to step outside his skin and acts associated both with death and we can say the divinity. Because of the limitations of his body, the hunger artist can achieve the out of body experience he covered only by giving up his life. So the achievement constitute the hunger artist idea of artistic perfection. So now we are going to discuss the mood. The mood prevails as atmosphere of feeling. So for it was not him of his reward. So the overall mood of the piece suggests depression, inadequacy and loneliness. It makes the reader feel bad, the hunger artist who has been forgotten by society. If we talk about the setting, the action take place in early 20th century in identified locales in Europe. So most of the action take place in two places. When the artist is popular, his performance take place in the amphitheater, but when he is totally forgotten, we can say that he ends up in the circus. So there are two main settings in this story: the amphitheater and the circus. Now we are going to discuss the tone and style. The story starts in off. We can simply say that in off, almost journalistic way, as the narrator makes some very general observation about the rise and fall in the popularity of hunger artists, but this almost journalistic voice can be taken for value. So we can simply say that it is ironic commitment, means the tone is disappointment and ironic. If we talk about the style, we can simply say that means its style is quite simple and clear. The style and language is simple and clear, and it is easy to follow the action. You do have to be one of your tones, means you can easily grip this short story. So now we are going to discuss the characters. There are the characters of the hunger artist, the overseer and the impressionero. So let's discuss the hunger artist. Means the hunger artist is the protagonist of the story. Means who perform fast for 40 years but feels unappreciated and misunderstood by the audience he is performing for. So dressed in black tights, the hunger artist is emaciated, and everything about the demands cries the we can say that depression, and it tells about the desperation and tragedy. He suggests himself to be engaged, preferring to sit in a straw-lined floor rather than a chair. So it was about the hunger artist. Now we are going to discuss the overseer. Means he is a circus manager who discovers the hunger artist dying in his cage. The overseer hears the hunger artist's final words. He has clearly does not care whether he lives or dies. As soon as the hunger artist expires, the overseer callously orders that his body be taken away from the place and replaced by a panther. The next character is the impresario, the hunger artist, who is the hunger artist manager until the partnership with the hunger artist, and the impresario is wholly dedicated to the hunger artist career and devotes all his resources to his advancements. As a result of spending of much time with the hunger artist, the impresario likely knows him better than anyone else. All the same way, they do not seem to be friends, given the pleasure that the impresario take in taunting the hunger artist during his performance to increase the drama and excitement. So if we talk about the character, the dynamic character, the people who observe the hunger artist are dynamic characters because they view the opinion change throughout the story. Thus, if we talk about the static character, the hunger artist is a static character because his beliefs do not change in the story and he remains the same. So we are going to discuss the theme of pride. The hunger artist thrive in his pride that the same way that the other thrive of food. He is the only one who know that his fasting is not a hoax and find satisfaction in his accomplishment. He view each day without food as a achievement, and his vision reaps the honorable. However, the outside world view his art quite differently and often react negatively to the things that the hunger artist is proud of, like his starving gaunt figure. So if we talk about the time, a part of the hunger artist's struggle is due to time and how it changed the world around him. His job turns out to not be something he can really or he can rely on forever. Fasting becomes outside or outdated, and so does he, with which he realizes at the circus. Unfortunately, it is too late to him to restart his life. The fact that time has taken so much from him increases his feeling of worthlessness and insignificance. If we talk about the isolation, this is another theme. The hunger artist isolation is caused by how society does not understand his art. He becomes frustrated. He becomes frustrated by his lack of belonging in the society and the only further isolation himself by not interacting with his audience. His isolation represents the isolation of anyone who thinks in this way different from the society, means what is accepted by the society. So it was about the themes. Now we are going to discuss the review. That today we have discussed the introduction to Franz Kafka, we have discussed the title significance of a hunger artist, and we have discussed the plot analysis, setting, character, literary elements and themes of a hunger artist. This is about our today's lecture. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.